You better take you up straight away. I mean, but we were interested in the situation of Alejandro Garnacho Manchester United and the potential move to Chelsea. It's more or less like Obinyako Chelsea,
Yeah.
But then I'm saying Sikasem want to Chelsea for how much value boy, Anyhow, United so value no difference room. United boarding Chelsea so budget prices near there. Meaning who take on this whole brouhaha surrounding Alejandro Garnacho the potential move to Chelsea.
Yeah, I think interesting, but sometimes these things are not a see in the game. So the issue with Alejandro Garnacho, the quality asem, and I say born na unimbo, and age class are on the side, right? July ya and Garnacho enya 21 years. So he's very young in the game. So when you're 21 years, you can say all things being equal, or roughly 10 years ahead of you. I'll be talking about competitive football, all things being equal. To 21 years, age on the side, but very talented. In my view, one of the best at the age when it comes to players are more pretty. From left wing, typical right-footed, nifafua, odi niko jina, tetine ebe can say number 11 obetimi aboni ye. Even if so person born behind your main striker as a number 10 crana, he can still deliver. So enti interesting say such a player na obekwa kodru a situation bi mu a club no and you're willing to continue with him. He's also not willing to stay any Sardian, but we all know say Garnacho any Manchester issue in there, just like some other players, a purely attitude the same, and it is about a manager who comes in and only happy to work with a certain player irrespective of how talented you are. Well, who know maybe or feel say on pay on to me when you're juma, I was more party ways. And it happens sometimes, even though and yet the best, but a see what game anymore. The most important thing is a player no ebenyan way out to get a different club. I am reading a lot of reports. There are reports Grandpa I saw just to say in the last 48 hours, Bayern Munich grab a picture in. Who said Bayern or Malusu Kingsley Coman to Al Nassr in the Saudi League and the Super Cup, he played for them and they've won. So and Luis Diaz scored, but so munya Garnacho it will be another good option on the bench, especially when the age no form. But reports ni na say Garnacho say or no dear Chelsea and only interested in joining any other club apart from Chelsea. Yeah. Chelsea no pesoko. Chelsea no pesoko. And the good thing is United any Chelsea so in the last few years any kind of cordial relationship when it comes to transfer of players. And the latest report I read actually say United need Chelsea unkomodie as omo call many as very soon they will get to a point where will be betting for the player to move, right? And that is the good news for the player Alejandro Garnacho. And clearly Saoche Ruben Amorim any one or two additions be away in Cunha and then Mbomo. Now check your performance last Sunday against Arsenal now. Clearly you can see that manager were moving on, right?
Yeah. He's
not planning with players bit say Garnacho ni Sancho, even though during preseason at some point or say or no there. So when clubs bia or mobile, he will welcome them because they are still United players. So but Bibia say he's moved on. Almost said that ne plans any idea. That is the good news for Garnacho. Chelsea so are willing to get him on board. And say Ubo United Now when you issues with the manager, now also moving on. Now a preferred club and so show commitment is there or per se or they will back on board. It's good. It's good for the player.
But so much to me result club to club dealings need to make us normal resolve with BR.
Yes.
Do you feel Garnacho, an ideal Chelsea kind of player, and then what sort of impact on about this Chelsea team, knowing very well both the left and the right wings are sealed.
Okay. Both left and right and it's sealed, sir. Especially when it comes to backups and our options. These days, there are not players in this young kind of options instead of backups. Like when backup, and I say will be was through chain. But you say this season it will not be like last season. And not Chelsea competing in the league aside the domestic competitions. No, let's say aside the FA Cup and the League Cup. No, they were competing in the Premier League and also in the Conference League. But I feel on Conference League, on Europa League, or Champions League, and we know, say the competition now ube facing our Champions League, it's not the same as Europa and Conference League. So could do stage now, ube Champions League, ube Premier League, and you are expected to say ube do a certain level, because the last time at Chelsea called Champions League, they were in the quarter-final stage of the competition. So, to some extent, not Chelsea for Felice Ankuye. And moving into a season, about Champions League, about FA Cup, about Premier League, and the League Cup, you need to have squad size, or more bench, ebe look like almost more field, And for example, young fan says, oh, fat Garnacho. Say obey one of your wingers ever lefter. Say the only reliable right-footed player obey Chelsea number 11 Jamie Gittins. Because Tariq George it looks like Mariska said that you're convinced about him, because at some point there were reports say I really cry Leipzig for so and remember me beka one say he's a homegrown boy. Tinkebeya manager and paid place for him. And he said for me, Garnacho bar, he will be an upgrade. What I say of George.
Okay. Not Gittins.
No. But even Gittins, me madri me say on Garnacho level no. I will grab it to me pick Garnacho ahead of him.
Gittins fine player, very good player there.
Yes,
but the experience in the Premier League,
absolutely.
Or the best,
And he is not like a backup, sir, or a player who turner obetimia walking straight into the first 11. For example, last game at Chelsea boy against Crystal Palace, at some point, now adaptation into the Premier League now a problem for Jamie Gittins. No, so. And the coach knew decided say obey change. To him, no say again, push Pedro Neto, echo number 11, nor the Esteva Obebo 7 ho. But we know say in the modern game, coaches prepare say or more right-footed players are or more pretty from number 11. Not left-footed, Bonkuma Fono or mono abo number 7. So and he me say it do some point in the game, especially when Chelsea were playing against a compact Crystal Palace side. Now, if you ask a coach, options on the bench, not a problem. For me, Garnacho would be a very good addition to the Chelsea setup. And one way around, Obe belittle Garnacho because of the issues are when you're at Manchester United. But he's a fine player.
Fine player.
Yeah. And the good thing about him is age, on his side, we're just 21 years. And it is all about obeying serious. No idea what show hard work on the field. That's it. Obey to me, I walk straight into the Chelsea setup. So as you see, now the emphasis say Chelsea and Mariska decided say the first choice left wing Jamie Gittins. Now it do baby a game ni more dinner say Garnacho in the free bench bar. Is it not good for Chelsea?
Yeah.
So for me, Chelsea for a very good business with Garnacho, but a lot will depend on the player.
As a Chelsea fan, open.
Absolutely. Me pen pa. Me say I didn't support the idea of letting go Jadon Sancho, because as at that time, any right-footed player be obe Chelsea number 11 ho. But of course, because many other factors, they decided to say they will let him go. And I love the idea of getting Garnacho on board. Like you said, our Premier League experience with a club like Manchester United. Forget about United issues in the past. United is a big club. And to say player be a taste of the United shirt now, or get it to a certain level. And manina sa experience, no?
Yeah.
To play.
But to experience.
Absolutely. Who's experience? They say, you could do very first, and they say, will be a winning experience.
Starting from Fabregas, captain Arsenal at that age. I mean, you could see Zenoa gather a lot of experience of Arsenal team. So they had to make him the captain.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the rest is history. Yeah. Garnacho experience.
Yes. For Garnacho,
so my come position at Chelsea as a United family.
When you're happy.
Say, yeah, my boy, Nako. But ni subane so, dia. Say, ya so sani man so team ni mwache. And at high times, you be clear such wits ne free ho. You mu wits team. Yeah, by performance,
okay.
by suban attitude, no.
Okay.
Sancho, Rashford, Garnacho, the who be cancer camp perform.
What Anthony Beckham Juana.
Oh,
Anthony Didi.
Anthony Nkamba, Anthony name person about team ni biem.
Na ne Nkomobi Didi say Drew baby United dey be anu sun ne ade.
Unzu and two of them.
Was you assume want to be friend ma mi nyina. Hey, openi na so we baby aye free ba di baby aye. Ye ne nemu akọ.
12 am ni 1 am.
Abrabo na enye
bete. Enough on Garnacho nti ya hwe na.
Yeah,
Faba could be so soon.
Yeah.